Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well, or good morning, depending on when you see this video. Just want to go, for those of you who wonder, what I do on my free time, I love geopolitics. As you can see, I'm all set up back here to kind of watch multiple things at once. You know, it's kind of like the Matrix, but I actually have pictures, not the little things going down. In any case, I do want to point out a few things that are happening around the world, and more specifically, I want to share some information that I'm getting from both corporate, State Department, and mainstream media, but it's not stuff you find necessarily on the news. It's more compilation done by the corporate and the Fed. When I say Feds, I'm specifically talking about State Department's Overseas Council, and they put together a bunch of highlights, which I find useful. And so to start with this week's highlights, and I'll probably be airing this on a Tuesday, so hopefully it'll be relatively interesting. So I do have a situation report for the Israeli Gaza, but I'm going to have to do that in a completely separate video. But that being the case, so for those of you, these are consular messages and alerts. So from the various embassies around the world. So October 28th, so that would have been Saturday, but they issued it on the 28th. It's going to be for that week, so the 29th of October through the first week of November. The Palestine Solidarity Group of Austria, Palästina Solidarität Austria, I can't speak German. Anyway, the group will hold rallies focused on the children in Gaza at the Sigmund Freud Park, and they may march around. So if you're going to be in Austria, keep in mind that in Vienna, the capital, you may see protests during the next week. Likewise, Denmark, demonstration alerts in Copenhagen. Julian Assange supporters expected to protest. So this is a completely different protest. A supporter of Julian Assange expected to demonstrate in front of the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen on the 28th, but then there may be other events and gatherings later on. So it's important to understand if you are traveling in Europe right now and you're not, especially if you're not from there, it's not home for you, you may want to make arrangements either with a hotel or with maybe coworkers or friends in country to have a place to land in the event you can't get back to your hotel, as the case may be, or your guest house. Kosovo, 2 demonstrations to occur related to the Israel-Hamas conflict. Slovakia, U.S. Embassy would like to advise about a march and gathering scheduled. Various organizers have called for solidarity in support of the Palestinian people. Now, you notice a lot of these protests are in support of Palestine, not necessarily Israel, but it would be fair to assume that you will have corresponding protests, pro-Israeli protests as well as pro-Palestinian. So you need to pay attention to this stuff if you're traveling, or more importantly, if you have friends and family who may be overseas for business or overseas for other reasons, or vacation, travel. Right now, honestly, I don't want to leave Texas. I'd rather be in Dallas or like Houston and have an Shtf occur while I'm still in Texas and I have a hairball's chance of getting home than to be in, Durkistan and then something happens and I can't get home, right? Because that would suck. So, because I don't speak those languages over there. I speak Spanish, so if I'm, I guess, in Argentina, I'll just hang out and find the nearest winery and just camp out. But, if you're in Europe, be advised. Okay, so Middle East and North Africa, moving to the Middle East. Lebanon, State Department recommends all U.S. citizens depart Lebanon. All of them. I don't know the situation on as far as embassy employees, but if you're there for family, business, whatever, get the hell out is what they're saying. Please see available flight options at the Beirut Rafik Hariri International Airport. Now, if you can't get out, you may be able, if you're a U.S. Canadian citizen or European citizen, you may be able to transit to Israel, which may be scary because you're going across that Hezbollah controlled zone to try to get out via either Tel Aviv or Acre Acre is the old Crusader fort on the coast, but they do have commuter flights to Cyprus, Italy, and Greece, so you can get out there. So just mental note on that. South Central Asia, Pakistan, protests expected to take place near the Red Zone, which includes the area of the federal government buildings, diplomatic enclave, and the U.S. Embassy and international hotels. This will be starting the week of October, the last week of October into the first week of November. I keep wanting to say December. So be advised, a lot of these may be done by the time everyone sees this video, but there won't be just one protest. There will likely be others. Now, for the record, you noticed I didn't mention France or Germany. It's because France and Germany have basically squashed pro-Hamas protests. As a matter of fact, if you go to the street and you block traffic, they will throw you in jail. They won't even warn you. They'll just come and whack you and throw you in jail, and you can hang out in there and protest. So, and that goes for both sides. They don't want this shit on the streets. They learned very painfully from the last few years, so hopefully they'll keep that squashed. Colombia. Colombia will hold regional elections throughout the country. Colombian security forces are expected to deploy 250,000 members, military, police, their federales, law enforcement, whoever the hell they have. There is a light chance for instability, but right now the election in Colombia, from what I'm seeing, is relatively stable. You have nobody's way out in left or right field, for instance. You have two guys taking different approaches, so they don't expect that to get that ugly. Then they go on with regional events, other things that probably aren't affecting preppers directly. Let's see, Europe. Elevated threats tied to religious sensitivities and free speech. They will be having actually webcasts for corporate types. So if I can sneak in there and get anything, I will try to do so. I can't live stream it on my channel because I'll get in trouble, but I can kind of verbally convey my opinions of what I hear if I can make it into that one. That's later in November. There are also several meetings, France, Ireland, United Kingdom, regarding various security conferences where the corporations, the public interest groups, and the governments are actually holding conferences to try and find some middle ground to keep everything between the buoys. So just right now, a lot of stuff going on in Europe this next week and a half. And I expect as the ground war continues, as you can see, that picture there, that's from the State of the Union. I haven't really fully read this one, but 900 troops, U.S. troops deploying. This was during the weekend. These, if I'm reading correctly, that's actually not an American fighter. That's someone else's fighter, but the NATO countries are positioning aircraft in the area. We've got A-10s, we've got F-15 Strike Eagles, we've got F-15 Interceptors, we got F-16s going into everywhere but Israel. We have troops on the ground, I'm assuming as advisors in the Israeli areas, but it's going to be interesting, folks. It's going to really be weird to see how this plays out, because that's going to really stress the economy. And I haven't read this one yet. Business Insider, Elon Musk, Jamie Dimon, and Ray Dalio issued fresh warnings about the U.S. economies. Here are 10 experts recently laid out about recession risks. So these guys see this. Remember, not only are these, whether you like Elon or Ray Dalio or not, they're not stupid people, right? These guys do this for a living. That's why they're where they are. They also surround themselves with people who understand the markets, geopolitics, industry, and how they tie together. And if these guys like these three who tend to be really like, yeah, bull market, they're like, hey, yeah, recession, this sucks. It's a warning for all of us. Because remember, this is what they do full time, right? We all have other jobs. We do other shit. But listening to these types of folks really can inform you as to what you do or don't do. So I'm going to leave you with that for now. Again, just to recap really quick, Europe, lots of protests planned. Germany, France have really squashed protests. Italy's having mini riots breaking out between the Italian nationals, the Albanian nationals, and then these newly arrived immigrants from North Africa. They're not playing nice with each other, and they are fighting. Ireland is probably the only country that doesn't have a major issue right now, even though they have a bunch of Eastern Europeans who immigrated over there. You're going to see a lot of this, right? And this is one of those situations that, because it's religion, it's cultural, it can become very painful. And there went my screens. They just do that when the computer starts dying. So in any case, folks, I hope this was helpful for you. Remember, if you have friends or family traveling out of the US, Canada to go to Europe, there will be protests and various other spin-off events happening there. If you live in Europe itself and any of the countries I mentioned, make sure you plan around this. And Americans, we're going to have the same thing. So the Canadians, you know, larger ethnic populations of Jews and or pro-Palestinian folks, which would include New York City, obviously, Chicago, Minneapolis, Dallas, LA, all our major cities, Houston. And for the record, not all Islamic folks are pro-Palestine. I've seen some who don't like the Palestinians. They think they're assholes. And not every Jew is pro-Israel. They're like, no, this is ugly. We need to be compassionate. So it's not necessarily along ethnic lines or religious lines. There's a lot of gray area. So pay attention. Make sure you have a good get home bag. You may want to adjust your bag during this week to account for possibly having to go on foot. If you're commuting, we've all talked about it. I know Angry Prepper has, New York. My Mother Spark just did one. I forgot, was a review on some firearms that she was dealing with, as well as making fire in the woods. Vision, Hudson, I'm forgetting people here. New York Prepper's been on his game. I gotta check in on Greg. We're all seeing it. So this is not a time to panic. This is nothing we can control. But if we know that it's happening, we know what's going on, that puts us ahead of the game. Because I promise you, for every one of us that's actually paying attention, you probably have another 4 or 5 who are freaking clueless, maybe 10 who are clueless. We might be 10%, we might be 5% of the people who are paying attention, of the people who are actually paying attention. So adjust accordingly. I'm probably going to go pull my bag from my truck and give it a once over. I might actually replace the bag and swap to a different type of bag that I've used on hiking trips. It takes up more room, so I have a room penalty, but I can fit more of what I want in there. And as you guys have seen my video in my truck, I actually have, you know, little plastic holders that go in my console for various things, you know, cables and you know, markers and whatever amenities for road trips. It includes medicines and first aid that I can stuff in a backpack in a pinch. And it takes me 30 seconds to do it, and I'm gone. You know, I can be on the ground moving and then find somewhere to kind of organize myself further. So do what you can within your power, your budget, your time, but take precautions. Give yourself that peace of mind. To me, we prep so that we're not the ones panicking when something happens. Anyway, I'm leaving you with that, guys. Be safe, be careful, prepare accordingly if you're going to be in those areas or you have a risk of it. And I will see you on the next video. And I'll keep doing my homework over here on my bougie ass screens and whatnot. Anyway, be good, guys. Take care of yourselves.